Welcome back to the video Darkroom. Adobe's neural filters are a great addition to Photoshop and can help with all sorts of tasks like photo restoration, colorizing black and white images, and many other things. But they're not perfect. I think they'll get better with time, but at this point, on the version of Photoshop that I'm using, which is 24.4.1, there are some areas where there is definitely room for improvement. In this video, I'm going to show you a really simple way to improve the results of the Colorize filter. So let's start with this black and white image scanned from an old photograph taken in 1956. I'll increase the size of the image by typing Ctrl and 0 or Command and 0 on Mac. We don't need the timeline at the bottom of the window, so I'll just go to Window and uncheck Timeline. That gives us a little bit more room. Type Ctrl 0 again, just to zoom the image up to the window size. And then to use the neural filters, we go to Filter, Neural Filters, and that opens up a new window that shows all of the neural filters that Adobe has added to Photoshop and that are available to us. The one thing that we're going to use is Colorize. So we click on Colorize and then we switch it on. If it's the first time you've used the filter, then it will be downloaded to Photoshop and you'll be able to use it. Colorize will immediately use its best guess to figure out what the colors of the image might be. But as you can see, it hasn't done a perfect job. It's actually tried to match this part of the little boy's jacket to the dress that his mother has. Presumably that's because it figures that the pattern looks similar, but that has left the jacket with two different colors on it. If we zoom in a bit further, I'm just going to type Ctrl and 1, which takes us to 100%. And you can see that there are some other areas that it hasn't colored properly. The arm of this jacket is not right. The flesh tones on the hands are not good. The flesh tones here are not good. And it has colored the bench with two different colors here, a kind of dark and reddish tone on the bottom one and a green color for the top one. And it's also done something which isn't very pleasant to the background trees. You can go in and fix this using the filter. For example, you can click on an area and you can pick the color that you want to use for that area, and then it will attempt to fill in that color to that particular place. Let's just try it again on this area, but it's not doing a great job. So I'll just give up on this and back out with Ctrl Z and just go back to the way that we were before we did that. The easiest way, I think, to deal with this is to go down to the bottom of the neural filter window and check this box. That will output the work as a new color layer. So if we check that, it automatically changes the output to new layer, and we simply click OK and accept that. And we're back in regular Photoshop now with what looks like the colorized image from the neural filter, but it's made up of two layers. It has the background layer, which is the original grayscale photograph, and then also the colorized layer, which contains the color information generated by the neural filter. If we click on that, you can see that the blend mode has been set to color. That means that all the colors that are on this layer are simply added or overlaid onto the grayscale image that's below it. It allows us to paint with color and improve the result. So let's zoom in to 100% by typing Ctrl and 1. I'll type spacebar just to drag down a bit, and I'm going to use the brush tool. We select the brush by just typing B. I'll make sure that I have the color layer selected. Now I see the brush is too large. You can simply adjust the brush by holding down Alt or Option and use the right mouse button, scroll left to right to reduce or increase the size of the brush. And if you move up or down with the mouse, you can vary the hardness or softness of the brush. 60% will be just fine. But I think it's still slightly big, so I'll just reduce it a bit. If you hold Alt or Option and left click, you can pick up the color from the image. I'm going to pick up the color of the boy's jacket. You can see that it's been loaded as the foreground color, and we can now simply paint that onto the image. I'm going to change the opacity to 100% and change the flow rate also to 100%. If you wanted to do this more gradually, you can set both of them to around 50%, then you could work more slowly on the image and build it up. But I'm just going to work at 100% for the sake of speed for this tutorial. Now you can see that you can just simply paint on the image on the color layer and replace the color that was there. You can change the size of the brush as you need to. Let's just take the skin tone from here and use that skin tone to colour the hand and a bit more on the jacket here, and we can work across the image very quickly. I'm just making similar changes so we can work on various other parts of the image. In this case it has coloured the two boots differently. Let's just pick up the colour of his right boot and paint that over his left one, and you can see that it's made the two of them look much more similar. I'm going to zoom out a little bit with Control and minus, and you can see that the bench has been given two different colours. But I like this colour. It certainly will contrast well with the background trees. I'll just hold down Alt and use the left mouse button to pick up that colour. I'll hold down Alt and use the right mouse button to increase the size of the brush, and I'm just going to paint that colour onto that area now. I'm not taking a great deal of care over this, but you could do it a little bit more slowly and carefully and paint in the colours as you see the need. There are one or two fine areas that need to be dealt with, so I'm just going to have a quick look at those as well. There's a bit of that blue here, so I'm just going to zoom in a bit. I'll hold down space and drag the image, change the size of that brush, and then I'll just paint in here to get it more the way that we want it. We'll just pick up that colour again to deal with that a little bit. So you can see that we can significantly improve this, but I'm not sure that I like the way that it's handled the shadowy areas in the trees up here. So I'm going to use a larger brush. In this case, I'm going to take the opacity down to around 50% and flow down to around 50%. Pick up the green from here and use a very large brush just to ease off that colour a little bit. Make it more similar to the colour of the rest of the foliage. I can also do this on this stone with a little bit from the other stone, and we can take the green out of the gravel on here by picking up the grey from the gravel more in the foreground. You can do this more carefully than me, so I'm not going to labour on about this too much, but you can see how we can get a perfect result from the first attempt that Adobe produced. Now that you've got that far, you can go to the layer menu and flatten the image. If you wish to take it back to a single layer and save it back as a JPEG, or you can leave it as two layers and save it as a Photoshop file or a TIFF file, and that way you can go back later and adjust it as you wish to. I hope you found that an interesting and easy way to improve greatly on the results of the neural engine that it produced out of the box. And if you got benefit from this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more tricks, tips and tutorials for Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere and Adobe After Effects, then please subscribe to the video Darkroom, and we'll see you in the next one.